You big cold-blooded dummy. You big dummy, see what you did? Oh, no, you big dummy. Oh, no, you big dummy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was wrong. No ifs, ands, buts about it. I told you before that about once or twice a year, maybe on a bad year, maybe 3 times a year, I'm going to find myself wrong, right? I'm joking. But no, this isn't clickbait. I really was wrong. There was something I was saying of a particular passage and how I was using it. You'll see how I use it and why you might say, okay, I can see why you're wrong. But I think this was a mistake that I just should not have made.
You big dummy.
Now, it doesn't change a lot, but it does kind of, I think, in some ways secure it, what I'm saying, a different way. But in John 5:18, I've spoken of this before, where it says that we know that no one who is born of God sins, but he who was born of God keeps him, and the evil one does not touch him. Now, my issue is, Corey, maybe you ought not rely so much on the English. And so it says the one who is born of God keeps him. The word that's used here, though, euanton, this is himself or his own. This is where the issue is. Here I am saying that the one that's born of God, it is who's keeping him. It's God himself, because this euanton. But this word is also used another way, that is the person who is keeping, the person, he keeps himself. And so, truth be told, the better way to put this in the English, and when you go look at other commentaries, they say the same thing. Many of them say the same thing, that the better way to put this is, because it can be confusing. The English is the one that's born of God keeps him. It should be keeps himself. And how do we know so? Is because, one, we start off with who are we speaking of? The one that is born of God. That particular person. This is a participle. Matter of fact, we've got 2 of them here, gegenemenos and hagenethes. These are, we know this is used kind of substantively as the subject, because we see the ha. This lets us know that both of these are in the nominative, and so this used as a participle, but it's also as a noun, substantively. What I mean by that is the born again. I said before, when you think of yourself as a believer, you think of yourself as the born of God. And so he says, we know, and so we would be probably the subject, that all the ones that are born of God, so the born of God, they don't sin. But the ones that are born of God, same word, this is also participle, and by the way, this is a passive aorist passive participle, whereas this is a perfect middle participle, but they're both still functioning as the subject of this particular clause. And so they're acting what we call substantively, so they are the subject, or the noun, the nominative portion of this. And so the born of God, not do they sin. Now, notice the ending of this eta, iota, or looks like an ei, he sins. Well, who does not sin? The one that's born of God. This is not attributive God. It's not that God doesn't sin. So that makes sense in this portion. But what about this right here? The one that's born of God, he keeps himself. This is not God also, whereas me looking at this is probably just going too fast, just stupid on my part. He keeps himself. It's he. Who's the he? The one that's born of God. And so I'll come back to what this means. How do you apply this in just a little bit? But I want to go over here, and I want to go to Logos. In Logos, there's a lot of different tools over there in Logos. And so over here, you can go and see these Greek charts. And let me pull this up on the screen so you can look at this. This is the we know. There is no subject because it's just implied that the we are the subject. So here's the verb, we know, and then that. Here we've got these two, this branch where it breaks off to the ones that are born of God doesn't sin, and the ones who are born of God keeps himself. And so we can see ha gegenemenos, the born of God, what? And here is the verb, he doesn't sin. Same thing here, the born of God, that's the subject, just like this is the subject here. If you all see my cursor, this is the subject. The subject does what? Here's the verb, divided by this, the verb. Same thing here. Here's the subject, and what the verb, he keeps himself. Now, also implicit in that, and this is where we're going to go with this as well, not only does the one who's born of God, he also keeps himself, but he also, the evil one, does not touch him. Now, let me go back to this, and the point is, though, that it's not to say that it is God who keeps him, but the person himself, the person that's born of God, is able to keep himself. I would use this verse, and I still use this verse, to say that when someone says that we can have some sort of generational curse, demonic attack, or demons inside of a Christian, no. It's still clear, though. The phrase is still clear. The one that is born of God, he keeps himself. He can keep himself. And the evil one is not able. Well, who's not able to touch him? The evil one. The one that's evil, be it a demon, be it Satan, whomever, is not able to touch him. So it still holds. It's just that in this case, the power of the one that's keeping the person in this verse is the person himself. So why is that? Now, it doesn't take away the fact that God won't let someone touch you because you have been born of God. Well, what does it mean to be born of God? Well, we see in John 1, 13, we see in John 3, verses 3, 5, 8, that the born of God is the same as born above, or born of water and spirit, born of the Spirit, born of God, born from above. We said in 1 Peter 1, 3 that it's God who caused you to be born again. So it's God who puts this in you, puts what in you? And this is why he goes back and says that person is born of God. How is it that he has the power, the ability to keep himself? How is that, huh? I mean, because we're still weak, we're still flesh, right? Yes, we are still weak, we're still flesh, but there's something in us. He says in 1 John 4, he's already told us earlier, remember, we're going from 1 John 5 to now to 1 John 4, and he says that you are from God. Hemos ek tu theou. So you, us, as believers, we are of God. Don't miss that point. Since we are of God, little children, he says we have overcome the world. Now, this is a perfect tense. What is a perfect tense? The perfect tense is a completed action from the past that has ongoing current ramifications and significance. And so we are, in essence, and even though it's not a participle, this is what we do. As a believer, as someone who is born of God, because remember, we are called the born of God. And since we're born of God, what we do is we overcome the world. All the things in the world we overcome. Because here is why, let me go back to this. Let me go back to 1 John 5. He says that we are overcomers. We know that because if we go earlier to 1 John 5, as a matter of fact, let's scroll all the way back up to 1 John 5 in the very beginning in chapter 5. Whoever it is, all the believing ones of Jesus Christ, what happens? He says that we have been born of God. And what does he say in verse 4? That we overcome the world. As a matter of fact, the same writer, John, in Revelation 3, says that we are the overcoming ones. And so that's also given to us with the participle. So that's what we do. And it's substantively, so that's what we are. We are the ones who overcome. We're the overcoming ones. And so go back to 1 John 4:4. He says that you are from God. So again, this is us. Same people, born of God, the believing ones. We are the overcoming ones, little children, and have overcome them. So this is what we do. Then he tells us why. Because greater is the one in you than the one in the world. So even though we don't go back to 1 John 5, let's go back to verse 16 again. I'm sorry, 16, verse 18 again. And we'll see that it's, even though it's us that keeps ourselves, there's something in us that allows us to keep ourselves and to allow us to make it so that the evil one does not touch us. 1 John 4:4 has already told us, because greater is he that's in you than the one that's in the world. And so he's giving us confidence that we don't have to sin. We should not live that way. And we will ultimately be overcomers. Now, overcomers imply that there might be some sort of struggle. There might be a hiccup. There might be a barrier to overcome. We might have to go a different route. We might have to deal with some things, but ultimately we are going to overcome whatever that is. That's what we do. Do we interact or deal with conflict or trials, different tribulations? Do demonic forces want to come out after us? Sure. Satan desires, as he told Peter, to sift you like wheat. Peter says, be on alert, for our adversary, the devil, is walking around like a lion, seeking whom he may devour. But guess what we're going to do? We are going to overcome. Why? Because there's something in us that will allow us or cause us to keep ourselves. And so I was wrong. I've got to go back and it's good to go back and check your work to see why you believe something, because someone asked this question and I wanted to kind of, give a more thorough understanding. But as I'm looking at this and trying to give myself a more thorough understanding, and no, Corey, you can't explain it that way because how your conclusion is incorrect. The ultimate result is still the same. You cannot be touched. No demon, no curse, no nothing, no dark force can bother you. You are able to keep yourself. You keep yourself from living a certain lifestyle. And when you do sin, guess what? You overcome that particular sin. You make it past that, no matter how harsh it is, how hard it is, whatever sort of stronghold, whatever diabolical force is going to come against you, you are able to keep yourself. This is the confidence that he's giving in us. And so the reason why he tells us or told us before, because we have something greater in us than that is the things that will come against us outside of the world. And so here's me saying I apologize for getting that wrong. And if anyone took that the wrong way or took it the way I gave it to them, I apologize as well. But it's always good to go back and to research and to check your homework. And when doing so, nope, Corey, you're wrong.
You're a big dummy there. I'm not kidding you. You're a big dummy.
And so because I only make one mistake or two or three for the whole year, now I've only got one mistake left. I'm kidding. I might make one more mistake before this video's over with. I'm so prone to them. But anyway, I just want to put that out there. This is just a good teaching lesson for me and for others folks. Let's go back and look at the text. The text is going to guide us, not me, not our conclusions, our preconceived notions. No, let the word, let the context, let the words, the actual words that were given to us, let that be our guide. Amen.
Get lost, dummy.